This panel is titled "Building with Your Spouse," and we've got a couple power spouses, power couples here at the Alliance, a couple partners and partners times two squared. As a recently married guy, I'm excited to learn. I'm trying to stay married, so maybe you guys can give me some tips there. As we proceed through this. Obviously, everybody knows who these couples are, but I want to give them kind of a chance to introduce themselves and talk maybe a little bit about the evolution of your couplehood through the Alliance and how it's evolved, so that way kind of people can get the full picture of your relationship.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Doesn't matter.
You go.
Okay. So Adam and Beth. So Adam and I met in high school. Our first date was to the junior prom that our chemistry teacher asked me out for Adam first, then his sister, and then Adam called and asked me because he doesn't like rejection.
I needed double confirmation.
Yeah. So we started dating in high school that senior year. And then we ended up going to UNC Greensboro and kind of continued our relationship there. We were going to be teachers. We were scholarship, North Carolina Teaching Fellow scholarship earners. And so we just kind of had, that was our plan. And we finally got jobs. I don't remember who said you don't get married thinking you're going to be, Marcus just said it, really poor. Well, when Adam and I got married, we had just graduated from college in May, got married in June, and didn't get a paycheck until September. So we kind of took the poor part seriously, and then we lived it out for a lot of years. But we're now married almost 34 years. Is that right? Yeah. and 3 children, and met Andy and Jane along the way. Do you want to talk about that, or?
So we had a plan coming out of college, which was we were committed to teaching for 4 years in the public schools. That was part of our scholarship. So we were going to bank all of Beth's salary and live off of mine. And, that way we'd save $80,000 to $100,000, and we'd be used to living on one salary. And then we could start our family. Beth could be a stay-at-home mom, which is what she wanted to do. And, it was perfect. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, man makes plans and the gods laugh. So we were not saving her salary. We weren't saving either salaries, and we were getting deeper and deeper into debt. So we became real open-minded real quick. And Andy came over to our little townhouse and, took 10, 15 minutes, sketched out a business plan. We went down to a meeting in Fayetteville, and we got started in Amway with him. Didn't know anything about it. Just knew we needed to make some money and knew we were looking for an opportunity. And to be honest with you, we were looking for friends. We had just moved to Harnett County. We were both in our first year of teaching, which was physically exhausting. And we were going to bed at 7:30 at night because we were just totally wiped out from standing on your feet all day, the whole thing. And so when Andy and Jane came into our lives at the perfect time, and they were the perfect people for us. They're not perfect people, but they were the perfect people for us. And we saw from the outside what their vision was and how they related to each other, and we liked what we saw, and we made a decision that we wanted to do what they were doing. And we didn't care that it was Amway at the time or that it evolved into insurance, to be honest with you. We just wanted to do life with Andy and Jane Albright. And we patterned a lot of our lives and our marriage off of what we watched Andy and Jane do, how they dealt with their kids, how they dealt with Jane's job, and when they had kids, how they did a lot of the things. And our marriage evolved basically as spectators watching the Albright marriage for a good part of our lives.
So we're Mike and Noelle Leventovich, and that's right. And trying to think back. We met at an Air Force rugby party, and neither one of us were in the Air Force, and neither one of us played rugby. It was a hell of a party. And we were drinking buddies. We were with a group of people that were just friends hanging out. I was dating somebody else, and Mike was dating multiple people, I think it was. And He's a stud, baby. And, you know, we were just friends, really. And eventually, our group knew that I guess we would get together. And eventually, he, I don't know what happened, but he invited me to dinner. And the rest is history, baby. And so we got engaged and did all the things. And we were friends for 2 years, or a year and a half, roughly, before we started dating. And then once he asked me to marry him, we were married within 6 months. And we started in this business, and we were also in the Amway business. We were with another group, and Alex Abian ran the meeting in the town that we were working in. And that was before we got married. We knew him, so that's how we kind of got connected with the Abians. And I got laid off from a couple corporate jobs when Mike and I were newlyweds. And Alex got me into a recruiting company because he knew that I got laid off, and I guess he felt sorry for me, like most people do. And he invited me into that business. I wasn't making money. It was the only time I'd ever done commission business outside of this. But that decision to go work there is what got me into this business. I worked there for about a year. And from there, Alex knew Andy Albright. And Andy talked to Alex about this business. And he said, "Who do you know that's broke?" And he talked to me. And so Alex invited me to a meeting, and I drove to Raleigh with 8 guys, and we went to a meeting in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was living in Ohio at the time. Mike was very skeptical about this. I'll let him talk to you about that. But I was fired up. I went to that meeting, and I met Andy there, and I saw some people, and I'm like, that one can do it, and that one can do it, and that one can do it, and that one with no teeth. I'm going to kill this thing, you know? And so I came back and got my license, and Mike was very skeptical about it, but I'll let you chat.
Cool. So she was excited. I was like, nah, not for me, but I didn't get in the way. She didn't need my approval to do something. We just let her run. I watched carefully what was going on, saw that she got her license, saw that she started helping families and bringing in checks, and I watched her bringing in checks, and after about the 3rd week of getting paid, I realized that she was doing it with leads and not just through her warm market. And I said, oh, that's a system. I could follow that. I could do that. So I quickly got licensed, got rolling. And as that happened over this 5-month span of her working and me getting started, we realized, hey, there was a lot here. We went to a meeting, not nearly this scope, but about 50, 60 people talking about how to grow your business, build an agency, build passive override or passive income through overrides. I was like, oh, okay. And at that meeting, like this, we made a commitment to say, okay, I'm going to quit my job. I gave my employer a 6-week notice when we came back, and we said we're all in because I really saw, okay, I knew this worked. I saw I could scale this. They told me, $500,000. I was like, I don't know if I believe that. I might have believed $200,000. And it was kind of my thinking back then. And so I was like, okay, I could see that. And I saw a platform. So we dug in, and we got to work as, at the time, married, no kids. We had some hiccups along the way in business. It was really before the Alliance and its lead system was really refined. Andy wasn't really running the lead system until 2002. So here we are in 2000. So we had some hiccups. We had time on our hands because we didn't have as many leads as we thought. So we got pregnant. Good strategy.
Got pregnant.
That's right. I helped for a couple seconds. So I was involved. She was committed. And along the way, as we got rolling, at first, both of us were selling. I was involved in recruiting. And then I think our roles, just business-wise, really shifted a lot in the first few years. There was a point where I was probably doing more selling when she got in her first pregnancy and was doing a little bit less. And then with the first kid, roles changed. At one point from a role, we realized we needed staff, and so we needed somebody to help out with pending. So I thought she would be good at pending because she wasn't selling. And so we tried that, and that was a disaster. Because I'd ask her questions, did you call F&G Life today? And she'd be like, well, no.
No problem.
And so it was like, okay. And so then we realized, okay, we were pregnant with another kid. It's like we really needed a staff person, so we did. And that person became helpful in our pending. But Noelle picked up on several things that she did well. At one point, she was very involved in lead management and lead distribution back when we had to fax out leads. There was a lot of work involved. We didn't have no fancy schmancy, like just download them and send them electronically.
Anyway, do you have other questions?
Yeah, no, that was a great start. I like these two. They can just go. Adam and Beth, would y'all talk a little bit about kind of like the evolution of your roles and like how you built together?
So we had a similar situation. We had kids. Sarah was born in '97, so it was really 2002 is when the alliance was started. But we were doing some stuff before that, and I was a lot like Mike. It was like, so Beth was staying home with the kids. I was still teaching and trying to do insurance, and so it was like Beth made the decision feeding Emily, who was like 18 months or 14 months or something like that, was more important than faxing in the form I needed, which we could argue, because I really need that form faxed in. And when we got to the point where I couldn't talk to my wife as my secretary, that's when we hired the secretary, because that wasn't her role at that moment. And one of the things that I think everybody in here who's married needs to understand is you got to find your way. Mike and Noelle, I think for a long time were much more partners in the business in terms of the work and all of that. Beth and I, we kind of divided and conquered. Like, she was responsible for all of the house, raising the kids, dealing with all the family, her parents, my parents, and she just totally freed me up to focus on the business. And she gave me no household responsibilities. I'm not, my hands don't work anyway around the house. These are jazz hands, jazz fingers. And so, they're soft. 2 weeks later. And it was, so like, she didn't ask me to change light bulbs. She didn't ask me to tighten screws or anything like that. When I was home, I was home. And then when I was gone, I was gone. And here's the biggest thing I could tell you in terms of the role of the family. She made me a hero to our kids. And ladies, if your husband's out there fighting for your family, don't put him down for being gone. See, she could have easily been, can you believe your father's gone again? And really de-edified me to our kids. But what she always did was this. She always was, can you believe your father's gone again? Slaying dragons for our family. And so when I got home, she treated me like a hero in front of the kids. So they'd appreciate the time I was gone and appreciate the time I was home.
And I think because I have not been the seller and the recruiter in our business, I honestly, there'll be times that I feel like I haven't earned what Adam has earned. But at the same time, like, you can hold two different opinions at one time. At the same time, this has always been our business. And I saw that from Andy and Jane. And so I saw that my willingness to let him go, and Adam mentioned that's not what I was raised with. My parents don't do anything separate. They order the same thing at every restaurant. And they don't do anything different. And so I didn't see that model, but I saw it in Andy and Jane. And they were 5 years ahead of us. And so I saw, she let Andy go. Now she's staying home with Haley. oh, she let Andy travel his circuits when he started building the alliance. Now look at what they have, the trips they had, the changes they were making to their houses. Like, I saw a model that said, okay, if you will treat him as a hero, one day he will become a hero. Now, there was a time when I had to convince myself of that as Adam watched the same ESPN show 5 times in a row. Highlight reels are no longer highlight reels at that point. But I have a vision of me. I was ironing that day. Don't do that anymore. But of looking at Adam on the couch and going, I've got to treat him as a hero so he can become my hero.
First of all, it was only 3 times. And I just wanted to see the Yankees highlight. Yeah, and that was something that Beth did struggle with because she, but there would be no alliance without Jane Albright. There would be no Team Impact without Beth Katz. So just because she never recruited anybody or never sold a policy, without the freedom and the security of knowing what I had, I wouldn't have been able to go out and do that. And not only that, she supported me emotionally when I had self-doubt and when I was on edge. And she could have very easily pushed me over the edge and away from everything we were going for if she had wanted to. And so just being that moral and emotional support was huge for what we have today and for the business. And again, that is exactly what we saw from Andy and Jane all those years, through the Amway business and into the Alliance.
So we started differently, clearly. What I started in this business first, and I was still am very passionate about what we do. And we didn't have any kids when we started in this business. We were newlyweds just trying to figure stuff out. And Mike mentioned he got me pregnant and stuff like that. We were already, I had already been running business and stuff like that. So I was doing it and in a different way. And he came on board shortly thereafter. Here's what I will say. Whatever your role is, it's a very important role because you're a family and it starts there. Whether you're a single person or a married person or somebody doing this with partnerships, don't minimize what your roles are, okay? Especially as women, okay? And so I had something to prove internally to myself, and that's why I was very passionate about this. I didn't want to get left behind. There were and Jane can attest to this, there weren't very many women doing this when I first got started, right? Like actually out in the field writing business. And so I wanted to prove that I could do that, and I didn't want to get left behind by those 7 or 8 guys that were in that van that day. I was like, I'm going to show you. So that's where I was. So yes, I'm the same way with my kids though too, okay? So we got pregnant and we started having a family, and we have 4 kids, 4 amazing kids. I knew that one day they would be leaving the house and doing their thing. I wanted them, and we have 3 girls and a boy, I wanted them to see me as an example of somebody that was pursuing something I was passionate about. And I wanted them, whether they do this business or not, doesn't matter to me as long as they're pursuing something they're passionate about. Does that make sense? And so that's where I was at. I don't know if that helps, but.
So along those lines, you mentioned whether male or female, whatever your roles in the family and the business is important. And if you're here and you're single, you might be thinking, why is this talk important to me? Well, same reason that me listening to all the women up here was important, because as a leader, I need to know how to relate and empathize with everybody. So if you're here and you're sitting here thinking, well, I feel I'm left out because I'm single, don't be, because you're building an organization and you may have couples or singles. Pay attention to both. So Big thing for us. Big thing for us was, okay, with kids and with both of us active in the business, we had to build a bullpen of childcare. At one point, we had a full-time nanny who would come to our house, was not living, but would be there 5 days a week and would be available to stay overnight when we traveled. We did not. When we moved to Louisville, we had no family. So we had no emergency backup. We had to build, starting pitching. We had to build middle relievers. We had to build closers. We had to find them that could be available to go in if the first one was getting shellacked. It was just like,
Baseball analogy.
yeah. So that was huge. And guess what? It was an all-the-time thing because we would find a good nanny and then they would get married or have kids or grow on with their own life. And you're trying to find people that you trust, and that's a process. So we respect the work that's involved.
I will say there was one nanny that we had that said that she wanted to have another kid because of our kids. So that's a testament there to something good. Okay.
Yeah.
You got more questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, I can leave. I don't feel like I'm intruding. Like, this is... I do have a question specific to kind of like what we're at now. And I know in your previous business, events and conventions were kind of like sold to you as a part of the deal. And obviously it's a big part of the Alliance. Can y'all talk about, both of you, why conventions are so important to attend as a couple?
I'll jump in first. I think if your spouse is not active in the business and doesn't want to be, I'm thinking them being here helps them become more empathetic with who you are and what you're doing. And if you can carve out the ability for them to be present, then they will be able to help you more, not by jumping in the business, but allow you the freedom to have maybe a more clear vision of what you're doing and what you're going through. If they are in the business, I said it's a must. I don't know if you got anything.
Yeah, and I would definitely echo that. My coming here gave me relationships. And this business is built on relationships because there are going to be high highs in business and there are going to be low lows in the business. And what has allowed Adam and me to survive, to sometimes tread water, sometimes have someone reach down and pull us out from drowning, is the fact that I had a relationship with Jane, and through these events, I developed relationships with people like Noel, and I have somebody that I can call and vent to, because sometimes, ladies, we have to just get it off our chest. And if I could get it off to someone who understood about what we were trying to accomplish and where we were trying to go, and understood the struggle maybe that we were in that moment, I wasn't dumping on him, whose ego, self-esteem, or whatever might be fragile at that moment. So for me to be grounded, I had to have somebody else. And those relationships are forged by the person that you're sitting beside. So when you find someone who is building this business, lock arms with them. What kept us alive is that when I got really frustrated with Adam, I could call Jane, and I'd say, get Andy to fix him. And it worked. Like he knows that's the strategy, and he's used it in reverse. There's no doubt about that. But it's a strategy that works, but it's because I knew the people. So get your spouse here. Build it together.
Yeah, a couple things on that. Ladies, as much as we like to pretend we're bulletproof, we're very fragile. And we like to live in this fantasy world that we are your knight in shining armor. And when you tell us we're not doing stuff right, that shatters the illusion. We know it's an illusion, but we live very nicely in lands of illusion. But when you shatter the illusion, we can't live in that land anymore. And so by Beth, we learned quickly in our lives that Beth could destroy me like that. So that's where Jane, being so engaged with Beth, became such a powerful thing for me because I knew where Andy was finding out this information. He didn't have cameras in my house. I knew there was a narc in the house. I just didn't care because I could take coaching and criticism from Andy all day long, but I couldn't take it from Beth. And so if she wasn't coming to these meetings, she wouldn't know what I was doing wrong to help Andy coach me on it better. The other thing is this. Is anybody excited after these couple days? If your spouse is not here, do you think they're quite as excited dealing with the children, dealing with the plumbing, dealing with everything else that's going on back home? So you're going to get home tonight or tomorrow, whenever you get home, and you're going to be on this emotional high, ready to conquer the world, all in like Marcus Richardson was talking about. And as soon as you get home, your spouse, who got no reinforcement, no excitement, dealing with everything, and they're going to cut your knees off. Spend the money, find the babysitters, and bring your spouse. I don't care if it's your husband or your wife. Bring your spouse here so that you guys are on the same level and you're growing together and you're dreaming together so you can build it together.
One quick thing on that. I liked it. I thought it was great. I like the Hebrew hammer. What was I going to say? Oh, how about this? How about you invite your spouse or partner to come? Sometimes we assume that they don't want to or they wouldn't want to and things like that. Invite them. What if they say no? Invite them the next time. Invite them again. It's kind of like inviting recruits, right? We don't stop the first time they turn us down at coming to an event. And make them... It's like, I was reading something the other day, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that book. It said something about how do we make people want to do something? Like, it's not telling them to do it, it's how can I make them want to do it? It's kind of the same thing with our clients, right? So invite them and let them know why you would like them to come too. And the other thing about your spouse is at home or, Mike and I always came to events. It was imperative, but we started a different way. But they're dealing with a lot of stuff if they're not here, whether it's the man or the woman or your partner or your relationship. They're dealing with a lot of too. Give them some grace. They don't know anything about what you got here. So give them a little bit of grace to come up to speed, okay?
That was good stuff. Can y'all talk a little bit about strategies for dealing with challenges, especially when you're new in the business and you're building and maybe your cash flow isn't amazing yet? What were some strategies, what are some tips you would give a new couple to battle through maybe some of those financial challenges?
Well, let me tell you about financial challenges. People don't think I can dance. You should see me tap dance around money issues. So every couple has to find their own way. And let me say this at the same time. You guys are sitting there looking at me and Beth, and we're laughing and we're smiling, and Mike and Noel, and they're laughing and they're smiling, and you think we got all our shit together, and that our lives are just perfect, and we go home and we sing Kumbaya together, and we're people. Our marriages are real marriages, and we deal with stuff just like everybody else deals with stuff, and you don't know what we're dealing with. And it's not your job to know what we're dealing with. Now, it is Andy and Jane's job to know what we're dealing with because they're coaching us, they're mentoring us. So we need to be transparent with our upline, but we don't need to be transparent with our downline or our crossline, okay? Because they can't help fix it anyway. But Andy and Jane can help fix it for us. And so whoever you're getting coaching from, whoever your mentor is, those are the people that you need to be sharing all of this with. One thing I've learned is this, and every family is a different dynamic. Typically, I'm going to get in trouble here, but typically, men don't panic as quickly when it comes to money issues as women do. Women crave security, Okay, they crave security, and so this is just kind of the philosophy, the mental games you get. We get the electric bill, and let's say it's $200, and if Beth sees the electric bill at $200, she's thinking, okay, we need to pay the electric bill at $200. What I'm thinking is this: the electric bill is due in 3 weeks, but really they're not going to cut off the electric bill till I'm 2 months behind. So I got 7 weeks to come up with the $200. So I'm taking that $200 and I'm buying some leads so I can actually make the $200 to pay the electric bill and keep my business going.
That's boy math right there.
that is, and so we made a decision that I would deal with the bills. I would deal with the finances because we just decided that's just what we decided. We had heard coaching on that from other places, and we said we're going to do that. So I don't know if Beth ever knows how much money is in the accounts. I mean, she knows she can access them. I don't think she knows the passcode though, to be honest with you. And I always felt like. I know Jill, my secretary, knows the passcodes. So I always felt it was my responsibility to take that burden on, and it was my job to juggle it and balance it. But I always knew I needed to keep investing in my business. And if you eat your seed, you got nothing for the next season. And so we always had money for the business, even if we didn't have money for other stuff. I'd be behind on bills, but I'd always have money for my business. And because I knew I had to get here, I had to bring Beth with me. We always figured out ways to make those things happen. The other stuff, figured out when we had to figure it out.
Yeah, I think Noel and I are similar in some ways, but I want to address a couple of things. If you and your spouse or partner, if you've both come from an employee world, or one of you has been business-minded, that's running the business, the other's been an employee world, but they've not been around that, I said, okay, there's a lot of things that are new, like the whole concept of investing in leads, investing in staff, and the fact that you're building a business. And if your spouse or partner doesn't have that language or knowledge, there's going to be some reading or some patience with bringing them up to speed, because you may be way up here or ready to be gung-ho. Oh my gosh, I'm ready to set up a subscription for $500 a week. I'm going to get my staff in the Philippines. I'm going to get your other spouse like run away. Okay, give each other some grace. I think here's where Noel and I have been on the same page, is that one of the things we've done for several years now is we have a financial review once a week. It's blocked off on our calendar where it's just the two of us, and we look at our business, cash, and everything that's going on there, and we look at our personal side. And we hold each other accountable. And if we're traveling that one day, we try to do it another time of the week. But we make sure we're on the same page. And she's looking at stuff, and I'm looking at stuff just constantly. And there's just a lot of communication there. But that's where we are. But that doesn't mean that like Beth and Adam are different. So I think there can be different ways. It doesn't have to be the same, but there does have to be some understanding. I think the next piece is this is where if you are investing big in a business, it takes cash or credit, and preferably both, to grow a business. And so if you've got one, great. It's going to be really tough if you don't have cash or credit.
You got a license. You got a license. You can get cash real quick.
And so I think if we ever had a hiccup, it was like, I guess we're going to be in the field more to get through this. And so it was like, okay, we're going to work our way through this. Whenever we had a hiccup, we had a plan and we had backup plans, and what can we do here? And there was always communication around that. So I think communication and the education on both parties is huge.
You both have children that are involved in different capacities of the business. I'm curious, what brand of Kool-Aid, or I guess what flavor of Kool-Aid, were you feeding them to really get them to buy into the Alliance and want to do this?
We say our kids grew up Albright. We kept them around Andy and Jane, so they saw a vision. They saw a friendship. They saw someone that supported us through the good times, through the bad times. They saw that, and they liked it. So we were very fortunate that Sarah and Emily in different ways are part of the business. We do have a third child. His name is Andrew. He's fine. He's 22. He lives in LA. He graduated from Carolina last year, and
Sorry, Andy.
and he loves hanging out with the team, especially if there's good food. He loves being invited. He has had the privilege to fly with Adam and Andy on the jet. He thinks that's really cool. His one experience at a college football game was during Carolina Parents Weekend that Andrew and I went to the NC State football game with Andy. So he loves it, but this isn't his passion. He's pursuing screenwriting by working right now at Home Goods because you got to pay the piper. And so what we wanted to instill in the kids was that you chase a dream, and that dream is going to require passion. That dream is going to require sacrifice. That dream is going to beat you up at times, but you got to get back up and fight again. And so we didn't say that the kids had to come Alliance. We just showed them what was possible and then encouraged them to be their best selves.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 4 kids. Our oldest daughter is licensed, and she's written a policy before. One policy. It was a personal policy. And but she's part of our staff, and she's pursuing her dreams and things like that. Her name's Emily. And then we have Erin Leventovich, who is a VP in our business, and she's building a business and recruiting and hiring people, and she's also part of our staff. And then we have a daughter, Elise. She is in college right now, and she is pursuing her architecture degree. And she's also part of our staff. She has written business and worked with clients before. And then our son is 17, and he's a roller coaster enthusiast. And check out his YouTube channel. What's it called? Coaster Cookie is the name of his YouTube channel. But he's never really wanted to be involved. That's okay. It didn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter to me if my kids are involved. If they're pursuing whatever their passions are, I'm happy about that. And eventually they'll come around when the money, But anyway, I will tell you this. The culture so we didn't have any kids when we started this business. We have 4 kids. They grew up in this business. Like, there was no other work or situation for my kids in this business. And what I wanted to do was to make them a part of it. But what I wanted to do as the moms that are leaving and have young kids or whatever, single, married, it doesn't matter. When I was leaving, I wanted to make sure they knew why I was leaving. So it's the guilt in me. I would go up to their rooms and I would whisper in their ear. This was when they were very small, and I would say, "You know why Mommy's leaving?" And they would say yes. And then they would say, I would say, "Why is Mommy leaving?" And they would say, "To help people." I wanted them to know that I was going to help people, not to go get drunk and party and things like that. Right? Well, it might have happened once or twice, but they didn't know that. So anyway, just make them a part of it, and they'll be fine.
I think. Go ahead.
I would say closing thoughts, wrap it up. Kind of give us your thoughts on the importance of building with the spouse.
I think I always made sure I was present and doing my part. We talk about characters, what you're doing when nobody's looking. So I just want to make sure whether Noah was there or not, that I was going to be a pillar, knowing that I'd probably screw up and have a weak moment, but I made sure I was always present.
So I think one of the biggest things is to build this together, you do your part and let God change your spouse.
There you go.
That the vision
Drop
is
the mic.
not yours to correct.
And I guess the last thing I'd say wrapping it up is dream build together. That's the best. Read books together. associate together, dream build together, so that way you stay on the same level as your spouse. Because if you're working for one thing and your spouse is working for something different, it can create a disconnect. And so I think one of the best things that Beth and I did is we always dream built together, and we always wanted to get to the same place together. And so have those conversations with each other.
It's not going to be easy, guys. It's just not going to be easy, whatever your situation is. Keep going, keep moving, like Olga was saying. Do it whether they're going to do it anyway. I started this business. I was going to do it whether Mike was going to do it or not. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Please give it up for your integrity partners, Adam and Beth Katz and Mike and Noel Leventovich. Good job, guys.